Hello lovelies, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to show you guys how to fold your fabric while cutting the front and the back body. So where I'm folding is where you have your measurement divided by 4 plus your allowance and your zipper allowance. So you're going to fold it like into two and then fold again. That's if you have equal fabric. So this the remaining part is for my zipper, and the center is where we're going to that will serve as our center front. So this is how to fold it. Just make sure that what you're folding is enough for your allowance and for your measurement divided by 4, your allowance, and also your zipper allowance. So that's how you have to fold your front and your back body. So the first thing I did is to mark out the label on my African print, and then from that center front which I just showed you guys, I'm going to go ahead and take half of my shoulder measurement, which is 6 inches, and then I'm going to add half-inch allowance for the sleeve. It's going to have a sleeve. So I'm going to go ahead and take my horizontal measurement, and the first thing I did is to take my chest line, which is at 6.5. Then my half length at 13 inches plus 1 inch allowance for joining. I'm just going ahead to extend the lines so that you guys can see what I am trying to do. And then I also connected the shoulder line that I marked to my bust point. Then the next thing I did is to mark my neckline, and for the width I marked at 2.5 inches, and then for the depth I marked at 3 inches. And then I'm going to go ahead and connect it to make a round neck because I wanted a round neck. You can change the neckline to whatever shape that you want, but for me I am going for a round neck. So this is for the front neckline. We are going to be marking our back neckline afterward. Then for my shoulder slope, I went down by 1 inch, and I'm going to go ahead and connect it to our neckline or our shoulder line. Then the next thing I did is to go down by 1 inch for my back neckline, which I mentioned earlier that we are going to mark that separately. So I'm going to connect it to our front neck to the front neck width. Is going to be the same thing for the front net width neck width. So the next thing I did is to mark my bust measurement divided by 4, and which is 7.5, and then I'm going to add 1.5 inches allowance for joining. Then I did the same thing for my waistline divided by 4, then 1.5 inches allowance for my stitching allowance. I'm just going ahead to connect the line, and then for my armhole, I'm going to be measuring from my shoulder slope to my bust point. Whatever I have there, I will divide it into 2 and make a point there, and then from there I'm going in by ½ inch, and then I'll make a point. So I'm going to go ahead and connect these 3 points: my shoulder slope point, the ½ inch I went in, and then my bust measurement where I marked it. So that's the 3 points I'm going to be connecting. You can use your hand and do this if you don't have your French curve, but I am using my French curve for today. And that's basically all for the cutting of our bodies for now, until we proceed for the back one. If you haven't subscribed to my channel up to this moment, please take 1 minute to hit on the subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to share my videos to family and friends. If you have any question, please leave it on the comment section. So if you notice, you see that we cut out our back neckline first and then separate the back and the front bodies before cutting out the front neckline. And then for the back opening, we are going from my neckline. I went down by 2 inches. I'm going to go ahead and make a point there. And then at my waistline, I first of all went up by 1 inch that we marked for our allowance, and then from there I'm going to go ahead and go up by 4 inches. Okay, I reduced it to 3.5 inches. I went up by 3.5 inches. Then the next thing going to do is to mark out my zipper allowance that I added, and I'll make a point there. I'll make a line there to connect it so that you guys who can see what you are trying to do. So what the line I'm marking now is just my zipper allowance. And then from that zipper allowance, we are going to determine how we want our curve to be. And for this, I went in by 2.5 inches. So after that, I'm going to make a curve, just like I am showing you guys, to connect the 2 inches that we marked up, and then the 3.5 inches we went up from the waistline, just like you see me do. Please go ahead and connect your own line, your own circle, semicircle. So this is it after I was done. This is how it's going to look. So the next thing I did is to cut out my lining for all my fabric. I am using my same fabric to do my lining. If you don't have, you can cut out normal lining or whatever you want to use for your lining. So what I did here is to place my lining on the front part of my fabric. I'm just trying to arrange it well, and then I'm going to go ahead and stitch my neckline at 1/2 inch. And then for my back bodies as well, I've cut out my lining as well, just like I mentioned earlier. I'm going to go ahead and arrange this, making sure that my lining is placed at the front part of my fabric. So after placing it, I'm going to go ahead and stitch this down, and I'm starting from my neckline and then stitch all the way, just like you see me pointing. That's how you're going to stitch it. You can as well stitch on your waist, on your zipper allowance, to turn it, but that depends on how much allowance you have, if you have it in mind before turning. So I'm not going to be turning mine. I'm going to just turn the places that I showed you guys. And then for the sleeve, is going to be open as well because it's going to have a sleeve. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out our sleeve, and this sleeve is going to be a short one. That's why I have a short fabric, and it's going to have a band. That's why it's short this way. So I am cutting my front and my back bodies. If you haven't seen the tutorial of my sleeve, is in my channel. I will put it in my description box. I lost a clip of on where I did it here, so I'm just going to put the link in my description box so that you can check the detailed video of cutting your sleeve. So I'm just making notches around the circles on the back bodies and also on the front neckline, so that we can turn it inside out. And also cut out the edge of the around the neckline, so by the time I put that place out, it's not going to be too pointy, or it's not going to be it's not going to have a bulge there. And I'll repeat the same thing for the other side, and also turn my front neckline as well. If you have lights or any means of ironing, please go ahead at this moment and iron them down. So this is it after I was done turning every pieces inside out. So the next thing I'm going to do is to place this front facing front on each other. I'm just trying to get where to use for my front body, because it's the same fabric, so I don't really have at this moment have the back and the front. So I'm just going to choose any one. So what I did is to place my fabric, my two shoulders together. We are doing invisible shoulder. You're going to make sure that you match the edge of the neckline to be at the same line, and then I'm going to go ahead and bring out my lining. Remember, one part is my lining. I can't tell you guys which is my lining at this moment because it's two different fabric, but just know that you're going to just take your lining and then one of your linings and then cover all the remaining fabrics, just like you see me do. Just pay attention, you're going to get it. So once you cover it up, make sure you arrange every fabric to be in the same line, and you make sure your neckline is matching as well. You don't want one to be longer or more out than the other one. So I'm going to go ahead and pin this together and then go to my sewing machine to stitch it down. And I'll do the same thing for the other side. All I did is to open up my fabric with the front, open up my lining, and then for the front bodice, and then place my back bodice into it, making sure that the front is facing front. Just this is another way of doing it. And also make sure that my neckline is matching at the edge, and I'll use my lining to cover this up and then pin it down before going to my sewing machines to stitch it down. You can as well do the normal stitching, shoulder stitching of just placing the front of your front bodice facing the front of your back bodice and then stitch it down and stitch after you are done with your work. And this is it after I was done. You can see that the inside and the outside are neat. There's no rough edge stitching there. So this is it after I was done. This is how it's going to look when you are done with yours. So I'm just going to show you guys how it looks. And this is my fabric for my gathers. What I did is to hold my fabric where I have my half length, which is at 13 inches, and then I'm going to place it on my fabric and then measure the remaining length of my gown, which is at 30. I can't even remember. Just making the length of your gown and then add 2 inches allowance for hemming. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to run a loose stitch on the upper part and then I gather it and go ahead as well to hem it. So this is my sleeve. I've gone ahead to run a loose stitch as well and then gather it, but the gather you're going to move it to the center of the sleeve. I don't know how I lost a clip of how where I did it. Just make sure, just run a loose stitch on it, gather it, and then move all the gathers, gather it to your measurement, to your round sleeve measurement, and then move all the gathers to be at the center of the sleeve. So this is what we are going to be using for our band, and it is 3 inches for the width and then the length is as long as the sleeve. So I'm just going to fold the two sides and then fold it over again, just like you see me do. I'm going to go ahead and then iron it so that we can attach it to our sleeve. And this is it after I was done with the two. Remember, it's going to be two because we have two sleeves. So the next thing I'm going to do is to open it up and then place my sleeve into it and then cover it with the other one before stitching it all the way from one end to the other. And this is it after I was done. I also did the same thing for the other side of the sleeve. So we are going to go ahead and attach it to our bodies, and what I did first is to fold my sleeve into two, and I'm going to go ahead and use my chalk to make a mark there. You can as well use your scissors to make a notch. I don't know where my scissors is at the moment. I just use my chalk to make a mark there. And then I'm going to go ahead and place it front facing front. That's my shoulder, my body's front facing the front of my sleeve. And then I'm going to go ahead and pin this together. Once I pin the two centers together, the next thing I did is to match it up at the armhole area, and then I'm going to start pinning it all the way from there towards the shoulder line. Just like you see me do, please go ahead and do the same thing. We just want to have the excess to be at the shoulder line. Then I'll do the same thing for the other side. I'm going to keep moving the excess fabric to the shoulder line and then pin it down. When I have about 1 inch remaining from the shoulder line, I'm going to stop pinning and then plate the excess on the sleeve onto the shoulder line when I am stitching it down. I hope you understand this. Then this is it after I was done stitching it down. You see how it's looking. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to place the front facing front, to open it up and then place the front facing front of my bodice. And then I'm going to go ahead and stitch it with my seam allowance all the way from the armhole to the waistline. So this is it after I was done stitching it down, the two side seam. And this is my gather. I'm done also with gathering it to my waist measurements plus some plus my stitching allowance. Then I've also gone ahead to hem it as well. So the next thing I'm going to do, remember while gathering, do not gather your zipper allowance. And I have a detailed video of this gather, of how to gather your fabric. I'll put it in this description box. Then what I am going to do next is to place the front facing front of my gather and also my bodies, make it front facing front, and then I'm going to stitch from one end to the other. I'm just showing you guys that you're not supposed to gather your zipper allowance. And this is it after I was done stitching it down. The next thing I'm going to do is to close it up front facing front as well. And I'm going to go ahead and stitch from the hem to where I want my zip to stop, and then attach my zip. And that's basically all for this style. Well, the next thing I'm going to do is to attach a hook or a press button on that area, and that's all for this style. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give me a thumbs up if you do. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed to my channel. Share my videos to family and friends, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.